Chapter 5 Coaching Diverse Athletes. In this video, you will learn the following: adolescent group differentiations, maturational differences, cultural differences, gender differences, and physical and intellectual differences. There are three types of adolescent groups, and the first is early adolescence, which is classified from the ages 11 to 14 years old. The average growth spurt of an early adolescent male is 15 and a half years, and for females is 9.5 years. However, boys obtain a small advantage over girls in strength prior to puberty, and then even a greater one after. These teens start to learn their identities and try to become more independent. The next is middle adolescence, which is from ages 15 to 17. In this stage is the physical growth of females, which occurs at approximately 14 and a half years, and males, which occurs at 16 and a half years. During this stage of adolescence, life choices and thinking are focused around the approval of peers and potential consequences. At this stage, teens start thinking more abstractly. In late adolescence, ages 18 to 21, adolescents are mature and think very abstractly. In this stage, they are focused on their goals and career path. They will also make rational choices based on experience rather than middle adolescence, where teens make choices based on impulsiveness and poor choices. Maturational differences. The highest maturational differences occur from ages 10 to 16. This is a time where children's bodies are developing, and usually it is different for each kid's. Young athletes are categorized by age groups, which could be detrimental for the development of less mature athletes. Anatomical age is the numerical assessments of a child's physical growth. Although hard to calculate, it will be a beneficial way to match up the skill levels of different athletes.
Well, wait. Alex, come over here. Get over here. Brian, I'm going to need you to play defense on Phil right now. So you guys are going to get better from playing each other. You're not going to learn anything from playing Alex. So as you can tell from the video, we switched up the defense on Philip to Brian because Brian and Philip are both more the same size than Al was. Al is a little shorter and less mature. But, Phil and Brian are the same maturity, and they can help each other get better by playing against each other. Another thing to point out is not every player is the same intellectually, emotionally, and socially, so that could also be a different kind of trait. But all in all, it doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It doesn't mean he isn't a hard worker just because he didn't mature, like Phil and Brian with their height. But all in all, the main goal is to relate athletes to their physical maturity to reduce the risk of the injury.
Cultural differences. Culture is a term we use to describe those social forces that shape our thoughts, ideas, and ways of interacting with our world. Understanding cultural differences. Culture refers to the human-made part of our environment as opposed to aspects occurring naturally. There are two different types of cultural aspects: tangible things, such as the way we dress, eat, decorative and ritual objects we create, and sports we play, and intangible things, such as attitudes, values, norms of behavior, learning styles, and social roles. Cultural heritage. Many factors influence cultural differences, with race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and social class being the primary factors. Other factors include age, health, religion, language, and ability. Collectively, all these factors influence each of us to shape our own cultural heritage. How cultural differences may influence coaching. Stereotypes and prejudice. Stereotypes are usually gross overgeneralizations. Stereotypes become prejudices when there are negative opinions about a group of people that result in a bigotry towards them. Expectations. Another insidious form of prejudice can occur in the form of holding negative expectations of certain players based on their cultural heritages. Expectations coaches hold for athletes are subtle but clearly communicated to them.
Alright, offensive football, are you ready? I'm down, I'm ready to start playing live.
Let's go, guys. Play some football?
What is that?
It's a football.
It's not football. Where are you from?
Al, take it easy. He's not from here. Football by hand is soccer.
Thank you.
So as you can see from the video there, Al and Philip had a disagreement between their cultures. One thought American football was European football, and the other one thought vice versa. In that situation, a coach needs to kind of step in and be sensitive to both the cultural understandings of both of those players, and at the same time teach them how to understand one another's cultures and be sensitive to both.
Gender differences. It's important to distinguish gender from sex. Gender differences regard socially determined factors that define masculinity and femininity. Sex differences are the biologically determined factors. Historically speaking, coaches have treated men different from females, but in reality, males are more similar than different from their counterparts. Females are just as competitive and committed. Title VI legislation has done much to give women greater opportunities to participate in sports, but girls still struggle with facilities, budgets, media exposure, and number of women coaches. Homosexuality and sexual orientation. Treat all athletes with respect regardless of personal views on their lifestyles. These preferences do not affect their abilities as athletes. Sexual harassment. Any unwelcome sexual advance, requests for sexual favors, or unwelcome verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. This can occur if it affects decisions about the person, interferes with person's performance, or creates a detrimental environment for the athlete. Coaches need to consider how vulnerable players are and how much harassment can affect them. It not only hurts the athlete, but it hurts the entire team, it risks imprisonment for the coach, and it undermines the coaching profession.
All right, boys, it's time. Let's get out there. Here we go, guys. Here we go. So the scene we depicted was a common occurrence in modern day sports. A nice slap on the rear is an act of encouragement by a coach, but it may be misinterpreted by a player. Might make them uncomfortable, and you really just want to avoid any situation or behavior that might make a player feel uncomfortable or might be an act of sexual harassment. So you just want to make sure that you and your players know what constitutes sexual harassment to keep that line clear and make sure you and your players feel safe.
Physical and intellectual differences. Sports today is no longer the domain of the gifted few. Sport is for everyone. We should refer first to the person, not the disability. We should also refer to an impairment as a disability, not a handicap. Common disability groupings for disabled sports are sensory impairments, physical disabilities, and mental disabilities. All people have the right to play on recreational sport teams and to try out for elite competitive teams, but not everyone has the right to play on them. Decision to permit a person with a disability to try out should be joint decision. The one with athlete parents, medical consultant, sport organization, and the coach.
Yes, make sure those shoulders are square. Be fine. Phil, what are you doing? You can't be shooting with this cast. Why don't we have you go do cardio inside? Sounds good, coach.
As we saw from the drill, one of the players was temporarily disabled and couldn't do the drill. So coach gave him another activity that he can do to perform well. This is really important because when coaches have to deal with players with disability, they should make a reasonable accommodations so the player can do drills without risk to themselves or others. So it's really important for coaches to learn their sports and to learn the disabilities of their players so they can perform well.